Yes, good evening. My name is Stephen Mucheule. I'm happy to share with you the key traits an internal auditor should have this evening. Kindly listen in as we share the great insights internal auditors are expected to possess in terms of skills or traits so as to add value to the entities they will audit. Aware that there is increasing change as far as technology is concerned. Key example is artificial intelligence. You may have heard that artificial intelligence, or put it as AI, is going to take over jobs for accountants, for auditors, but to bring it down to the scale, entry-level jobs. So from the technology experts in terms of foresight, most of the entry-level jobs are going to go off the shop as AI is able to perform those tasks very efficiently. Now, where does this leave an internal auditor? So as an internal auditor, you need to prepare ahead of time. Move with the technology. That is, you should be in a position to appreciate the performance of artificial intelligence, but they are skills or capabilities which AI may never possess, or it may take a reasonably long period of time for AI to have such skills. So as humans, we are lucky, we are going to stay with these skills. So which are those skills, or which are those traits I am to emphasize to you as far as the internal auditors are concerned? So there are basically 5. 1 is critical thinking. 2, relationship management. 3, intellectual curiosity. 4, empathy. 5, ethical resilience. So for each of the traits, I am going to walk you through how can you develop these traits, how can you demonstrate these traits, and how can you evaluate yourself on the journey as far as achieving these traits is concerned. Let me start with critical thinking. Now, in critical thinking, you need to practice root cause analysis as the internal auditor. AI may not be in a position to perform adequate root cause analysis because it can perform root cause analysis, but it may not perform it to a level of a human being. So this is a skill we need to have. Then using a structured approach during risky assessments. Which methodology are you adopting? Is it structured? Can you be able to challenge the assumptions you are arriving at or you are thinking at? That all of those will be helping you in developing yourself to think critically. Now, how do you demonstrate that? The way you present your reports, do they flow logically? The logical flow of your information you have documented. In terms of the audit findings, are they evidence-based? How do you link issues to the impact or the consequence of the organization? So you have, as an auditor, you have your evaluation criteria, and then you have your observation. The observation which you have gotten from the evaluation criteria is now the difference that exists between the evaluation criteria and the condition in which a process or a control is operating. So after you have the issue, which is the observation, can you be able to link that issue to a risk immediately. The capability to immediately link the issue you are highlighting as an auditor to the risk will be a progression journey towards critical thinking. I know as internal auditors, we have liked the norm or the tradition of identifying voluminous issues as much as possible. Now the question remains is that, where are the risks? If you are able to identify the risks, that is the only way you are going to present it to the client and be able to get good feedback. Identify the appropriate risks, good to go. So when you mention the risk, the client gives you the ear. Then what is the recommendation? Which you can only achieve as well through root cause analysis. So if your recommendation is a root cause analysis based recommendation, they will still be able to hear you as clients. And at the end of the day, you would have added value. Critical thinking, how is it demonstrated again? Capability to ask probing questions. Like, for example, you're having walkthroughs. So when you have walkthroughs, are you able to follow up with probing questions? Now, an auditor who follows up with probing questions during walkthroughs is trying to demonstrate critical thinking. We now come to self-assessment. Evaluating yourself on the journey of critical thinking. Number one, you need to ask yourself, do I evaluate evidence objectively before drawing a conclusion, or I arrive at the conclusion before evaluating the evidence? We have a concept called corroboration of audit evidence. So in corroborating audit evidence, you are trying to relate or link one form of evidence to the other form. In terms of evidence is information obtained by the auditor. And the information obtained by the auditor, in my view, it is mainly four categories. Either it is testimonial information you have obtained through inquiries, or documentary information you have obtained through examining records or the documents, or analytical information you have obtained through examining records, performing analysis, data analytics on the information on the area, or physical information. So 4 categories of information as an internal auditor you should be aware of. Physical information, definitely you get it physically through maybe observation. When you're there physically, the evidence you gather is physical information. Maybe pictures, okay, or you have taken a recording by yourself, a video where you're also part, that is physical information. So again, in assessing critical thinking, ask yourself a question. Do I question the assumptions? Do I seek alternative explanations? If part A has explained to me, do I go by that? Do I seek an alternative explanation? Do I look forward to challenge or to assess the feedback I've gotten on my inquiry? If you are not doing it, then your journey of critical thinking is yet to start. If you are already doing it, then you are somewhere in critical thinking. When it comes to audit reports, do you link findings with risks? Okay, at reporting stage. If yes, you're in the good progression. That is critical thinking. Just a recap, how to develop it: practice root cause analysis, use structured risk assessment approach or methodologies, challenge your own assumptions. Okay? When you're thinking or writing, I think it's can you be able to challenge your own thinking, challenge your own assumptions? Okay. Next item is relationship management. So away from critical thinking, the next step is relationship management. It's not a step, but the next trait is relationship management. When you talk of relationships, we mean to say that as internal auditors, we work with people within your audit team, to your boss, the chief audit executive, to the board, to management, the regulators, and many other stakeholders. How do you manage relationships? Now, AI will not be able to manage those relationships very soon. So that is the skill we need to capitalize on as human beings. Okay? As AI wishes to challenge us, can we now develop this skill further such that you are able to leverage on AI if they are taking away the tasks you used to perform entry level? Now the question is, are you able to manage relationships? Okay. How do you develop this? Improve the way you communicate. Do you have active listening skill? Or the client speaks, you also speak, you are arguing. So that way, you need to develop how to manage the relationship, improve the communication. Conflicts are part of life. You can't avoid conflicts. So what am I communicating? Learn how to resolve the conflict. Sometimes the one solution for resolving the conflict is by saying, I am sorry. Just the two words, I am sorry. How can we do it? I am sorry. Next time I will not do it again. The two words, I'm sorry, you may have resolved the conflict. So let's learn the tactics of resolving conflicts. In that way, we are still managing relationships. Understand stakeholder challenges. You have your targets, you're working under tight timelines, tight expectations from different stakeholders behind you. Maybe the CA is on your neck, or the board is on your neck for the report. What challenges are the stakeholders, your audit clients, are they facing? Those are part of your stakeholders. You want to start the audit, but they have another audit ongoing. How do you appreciate if there is slow flow of information? Do you take into account the challenges they are going through? Are you able to schedule some of your activities? That is part of relationship management. How do you demonstrate it then? Align your scope with timelines early enough with the client. Agree on the timelines early enough. Then provide timely updates. You can do this weekly, daily, monthly, depending on the scope of the engagement. Maintain professionalism even during difficult discussions. So in relationship management, for you to demonstrate that indeed you are developing that skill, there will be a case or a scenario where you are now having difficult discussions. How do you maintain professionalism? How are you able to say no politely without angering the other party? That bit of professionalism. Self-assessment. Now, how do you measure that you are developing this relationship management trait? Number one, ask yourself, do audit clients or auditees see me as a collaborative, or they do not yet see me as such? Okay, of course, if they see that you are collaborative, then just know you are developing the skill, you are getting there. Do you communicate regularly, and are you clear in your communication to all stakeholders? Immediately, if you are scheduling an audit, do you get approval? Do you update the changes with the audit plans? Do you manage conflicts constructively? Okay, constructively. Constructively, you need to manage the conflicts. The third trait is intellectual curiosity. Very interesting. Intellectual curiosity. How do you develop this skill? How do you develop this trait? Intellectual curiosity. You need to stay updated on the industry trends and regulations. Understand the sector you're operating in as the internal auditor. You should be the first person to know the new changes which are coming in the pipeline in respect to your industry, the new laws, the new regulations, the new updates, the expectations from regulators which are changing. You should be able to know it. So curiosity, like intellectual curiosity, building knowledge. So that is a skill you need to know. Okay? Attend cross-functional trainings. Are you able to get sessions or attend trainings for other departments to learn? You work in an organization, but you don't know what the operations department does. Technically, you get to interact with them only at a time when you are auditing or the audit has been scheduled. Yet they have maybe those occasional trainings organized within the year. So what we are saying is that can you be able to attend some of those trainings? Okay, if there is a webinar or a training on credit management, so you are working in a credit institution, could you attend to learn more about credit management? There you are building intellectual curiosity. So the credit department members are attending, but if you have the opportunity as the internal auditor to also attend, you build that knowledge. So that you are trying to defeat AI. Okay. The other one is being able to ask why and how questions continuously. Why? How? Why? How? You'll be building intellectual curiosity. Question is, how do you demonstrate it? You can only demonstrate it, number one, being able to do some research. Okay? For example, before you start the audit, can you understand the area? Do not audit what you don't understand. So try to understand the area, do some bit of research, read about the area. And then you should be able to identify some emerging risks, okay, in your audit plan, which were not originally scheduled. So if you are able to identify emerging risks, that means you are demonstrating intellectual curiosity, okay, and then you are going beyond the AI, which is the good thing, and you are going to be irreplaceable. You need also to use innovative tools, okay, during audits. So which innovations are you coming up with during your audits? Or your audit is the same January to December, year one, year two, year end. So what developments are you incorporating within your audit process? So the innovativeness that may come along with your audit is part or is a reflection of intellectual property. How do you do a self-assessment to check your level of intellectual property? Ask questions. Do I actively seek to understand new risks and processes? If yes, then you have it. Do I go beyond the checklist to learn why and behind controls? So, you find an internal auditor. There is an approved audit worker program which involves the audit objectives, the audit procedures and risks, and maybe the auditors in charge and the timetable. So then the auditor focuses on, I have 10 procedures. I have audited the 10 procedure, tick, this one is crossed, this is tick, this is crossed, and audit is complete. So if you are such a person, you complete the audit when you have only done the 10 procedures which were planned within the audit program, the audit checklist, and you have not thought through to go beyond the established controls to see if there is any emerging risk, then your journey to intellectual curiosity, in Uganda we call it money will come. Okay? Money will come. We have our finance minister who says that the economy is on the. So it means your intellectual curiosity is on the. So my prayer is, if you have the checklist, once you're done with your checklist, can you challenge yourself? Be curious a bit and ask yourself a question. what might go wrong beyond these procedures I have worked on, beyond these tests I've done, what might go wrong. So that means you're going beyond the audit checklist, okay? Okay? So I'm trying to advocate for that so that you develop the intellectual curiosity. Ask yourself another question. Do I bring fresh insights when we are planning for the audit? Or I get the work program which we used in the first quarter, and now it is the third quarter planning for the same area of audit. Maybe we are planning for finance. We planned for finance in the first quarter. We are now planning for finance in the third quarter. Is it a copy and paste of the work program? Or I make suggestions, bring in insights when developing this new work program to customize it, to take into account the emerging risks. So you're trying to demonstrate that you have gotten intellectual curiosity as a skill being embedded in you as the internal auditor. The fourth trait is empathy. Now, empathy is one of those traits or skills which is very limited for most of the internal auditors. So what do I mean? It is a way of bringing things into perspective. Can you build emotional intelligence? Okay? So emotional intelligence as a skill. This one will not be built by AI. So as a human being, if you are demonstrating emotional intelligence, you are becoming empathetic. That is an additional trait you are having. Okay? Do you seek feedback on an interpersonal approach? If you ask that question, then you're trying to develop empathy. How do you demonstrate empathy now as a trait? Number one, you need to acknowledge the audit client's challenges or constraints. If you are able to think like, imagine you are the auditee, how are they constrained? There are these issues at hand, but what are the constraints at hand? Trying to appreciate their problems. You're trying to be empathetic, okay? Probably the issue is to do with training gap. Now you have raised the process deficiencies, which the client is not complying with, but possibly it is attributed to lack of training in that process control. So until you're able to appreciate the constraint, you may not be in a position to understand the challenges. So as part of empathy, for you to be empathetic, is acknowledge the audit client's constraints, then communicate your findings constructively. Be flexible when scheduling activities. Okay? If there are those practical challenges the client is facing, can you engage the client in time? Can we reschedule this? Can you agree on the revised timelines and track the same? Can you give updates? That is empathy. So how do you measure that? Ask yourself questions. Okay? The self-assessment questions. Number one, do I try to understand the pressure my audit client is going through? If yes, then yeah, you are demonstrating empathy. If you are able to understand the pressure client is going through. Am I communicating findings respectfully and constructively? Okay? So you need to be respectful. The language of communication is very important. Do people feel comfortable engaging me openly? If yes, you are demonstrating what? Empathy. If clients cannot share the challenges with you, the auditor, then you need to work on your skill of being empathetic. Okay? Because overall, you are looking at value addition. If the client has challenges which they cannot be shared either in the entry meeting or during the course of the audit, then it so happens that you as the internal auditor, you need to work on that skill of empathy. Finally, ethical resilience. So this last trait is ethical resilience. You know what ethics is, you know what resilience is. So ethical resilience, possibly here, I am just trying to affirm that abide by the Institute of Internal Auditors Code of Ethics, none other than that, okay? So abide by the Code of Ethics without exception. And the IIA Code of Ethics emphasizes integrity, competence, objectivity, and confidentiality. So you need to internalize the IIA Code of Ethics and then discuss ethical dilemmas with your peers, with your mentors, if you're having any ethical dilemmas. Build confidence through experience, okay? Build confidence. How do you know that you have built the skill of ethical resilience? Number one, are you in a position to escalate high-risk findings, okay? Despite the push by management to ask you to change or to move, are you able to push those high-risk findings to the board, for instance? If yes, then ethical resilience is featuring in you. Two, are you able to maintain independence and integrity throughout the audit and throughout the course of your work? If yes, ethical resilience is manifesting. And then, are you able to document audit evidence which supports all your conclusions? By the way, in case you have an audit report or an audit working paper with what you have documented as a conclusion or a finding, a comment, whatever it is, if there is no documented evidence, then again you are lacking the skill, the trait or the skill of ethical resilience. You can imagine that. Okay? So as an auditor, make sure that you have obtained sufficient and appropriate audit evidence before you arrive at a conclusion. So how do you evaluate ethical resilience? Ask yourself questions. Do I stand by my conclusions even when I am under pressure, or I change in case the pressure is too much? If you do not change, you stand by your position, bravo, you are demonstrating ethical resilience. Do I avoid conflicts of interest or bias? If you do, ethical resilience. Can stakeholders trust my integrity without question? If yes, ethical resilience. Okay, so that is it from me. Just as a recap, look forward to developing these 5 critical skills as AI comes up to erode jobs, as AI comes up to destabilize everyone in the business. Internal auditors are not an exception. So I am giving you good news that as AI comes, I am showing you that this AI will not be able to erode the following skills, which if you have them, they will make you relevant as an internal auditor. What are the skills I'm emphasizing? Critical thinking, relationship management, intellectual curiosity, empathy, ethical resilience. Thank you so much. Happy day.